Buckle up, because I just found an article that claims that one crypto is the best place to put $500 right now. Way better than any stock. And get this, it wasn't on some fringe blog. It was in the US Today. Yeah, a mainstream newspaper basically said that if you have $500, consider XRP. Now I know, it sounds like clickbait, right? But it was legit. And you already know that I had to investigate that bold claim. So obviously my curiosity kind of went into overdrive. Why would a publication like USA Today spotlight XRP of all things? Is there something big happening that we've all been sleeping on? I needed to find out if they were onto something or just out of their minds. And here's a spoiler alert. What I discovered actually surprised me, right? We're talking about everything from new laws, with ridiculous names of course, changing crypto's future, to a sneaky little XRP feature that could make a big difference in the long run. And yes, I'll even tell you if I decided to throw in $500 of my own money on XRP by the end of this video. In fact, this story even sparked a debate in our Discord server, which is free and educational, link in the description. And I wanted to get some pretty solid answers. Now, if you're wondering whether XRP might secretly be the smartest $500 bet in crypto, stick around, because it's been one heck of a ride finding out. All right, let's start with a simple question. What's so special about $500? Well, for a lot of us, $500 is the kind of a manageable investment amount. It's not chump change, but it's not your life savings either, right? You could put it into stocks, maybe into an index fund, or historically you'd get around a kind of 10% return in a year if things go well. Now, the US Today piece actually kind of did the math here. $500 in the S&P 500 might net you about $50 in a year, based on historical averages. So it's $50. That's like a nice dinner or maybe one tank of gas these days, right? It's not bad, but it's nothing life-changing. Meanwhile, in the wild world of crypto, $500 can turn into a much bigger number, or completely evaporate faster than you can say volatility. We've all seen it, right? One week your crypto could be doubled, right? And the next it could be down by half, right? It's high risk, high reward. Now, the article's point was that if you're okay with the roller coaster, crypto might outperform stocks by a lot. But, and I said, and of all of the kind of cryptos out there, I should say, they kind of singled out XRP. That caught my eye. Now, why XRP and not, let's say, the latest meme coin or even Ethereum or Bitcoin? Well, the article basically called XRP one of the most compelling choices for a $500 investment in crypto right now. And their reasoning is that XRP is what they call a more calculated risk. And I kind of love that phrase. Calculated risk. Now, in plain English, not as crazy as throwing darts at random new tokens, but still some risk involved. Now, XRP has been around for quite a while. It's not some 2-month-old DeFi project with a food name, right? It's actually got some real use case. Plus, they recently have been scoring some wins that kind of make it less question mark in the future. Now, let's talk about those wins then, starting with the big ugly elephant that's leaving the room, regulation. Now, if you remember, a couple years ago, at least back where the crypto scene in the US was a bit of a battlefield, right? The US was coming after companies left and right. Ripple, the company behind XRP, got dragged into a lawsuit that felt like it lasted an eternity. It was the whole, is XRP a security or not drama. Now, during that time, it was complete chaos. Ripple had even lost some big partners, right? MoneyGram, for example, basically said, see ya, because of the uncertainty. Now, honestly, a lot of us thought that XRP was done for, at least in the US, at that particular point. I was thinking it's a great that the government's kind of strangling this thing, right? So much for that. But I also doubled down at 17 cents because I remember remembered that the US is only one place in a very giant world. But if we fast forward to now, and all these things have changed in a rather big way, right? The new administration in the US is actually more crypto friendly. Words I have never kind of thought I would ever say, right? But here we are. Now, in fact, in July, President Trump signed something called the Genius Act into law. And yes, that is really the name. It's an acronym, of course, and a pretty cheeky one at that, if you will, right? Guiding and establishing national innovation for US stablecoins. Basically, it provides a clear framework for issuing stablecoins in the United States. This is a huge pivot from the previous crypto equals bad stance. I mean, imagine that, a law to help crypto thrive, not just to punish them. So when I read that, I did a bit of a double take. Trump signed it, the same guy who once bashed Bitcoin on Twitter. Pretty wild. But hey, credit where credit is due. This law is a big green light for parts of the crypto industry. Now, this friendlier vibe isn't just about one law either. It actually marks a broader shift. Now, the SEC isn't running around unsithing at least the sword at every crypto project, right? Or at least not like before. Now, that endless Ripple versus SEC courtroom saga finally ended with a pretty epic victory for Ripple. A judge ruled that XRP is not a security, at least for retail sales. You can cue the celebrations in crypto land, right? Now, that clarity was absolutely huge because it was like the cloud of uncertainty lifting off of XRP. The result? XRP could breathe again, and so could anyone who held it through that storm. And Ripple, to its credit, didn't waste the opportunity. They went from playing defense to going all on offense. Remember how they lost MoneyGram as a partner during the lawsuit? Well, they now got more than made up for it, right? The article kind of pointed out that Ripple scored a partnership with BNY Mellon, as in the Bank of New York Mellon, right? The oldest bank in the United States. So you can let that sink in. A historic traditional bank teaming up with a crypto forward company like Ripple. Now, if that isn't a sign of changing times, then I just don't know what is. Now, essentially, BNY Mellon agreed to be a custodian for Ripple's reserves, backing a new stablecoin. Now, this is a big deal because big banks usually move like glaciers. So for BNY Mellon to actually say, yeah, we're on board with this crypto thing, it means they see real value, or at least real demand, in what Ripple is currently doing. So for people like us, it kind of signals that XRP's ecosystem isn't just surviving, it's thriving and gaining respect in high places. Now, something that sets XRP apart from a lot of other crypto is that it never has really been about all the hype stuff. It's not out there trying to be the next decentralized everything platform or promising that you're going to get rich from farming rainbow unicorn tokens or whatever. XRP's mission has always been pretty down to earth. Move money across borders faster and cheaper. Now, international banking transfers, right? But make it kind of instant and a tiny fee, right? It's kind of like the tortoise in the world of hares, right? Slow and steady focus, but man, can it go the distance? Now, the tech kind of boasts near instant settlement and fees so low that you might as well call them free. Now, for anyone who's ever kind of wired money abroad and paid like $40 in fees and waited days, this is music to their ears. Now, I find that refreshing because, look, the crypto space is full of projects chasing the latest trend. One month it's NFTs, the next month it's some metaverse thing, then it's whatever X to earn model is, right? That's pretty cool, innovation is great, but a lot of it is just speculative. Now, by contrast, XRP is like, yo, I'm not just gonna quietly make sure that banks and people can just move money from A to B without all the usual nonsense. Sure, it's not sexy to talk about the plumbing, right? But you know what? The plumbing of global finance is a multi-trillion-dollar problem to solve. Now, if XRP continues being the plumber that actually fixes a leak in that particular system, Well, that is a huge win. Now, speaking of plumbing, let's also talk about a new piece of the XRP ecosystem that not everyone actually knows about. Now, in 2024, Ripple decided to dip its toes into the stablecoin waters with something called RLUSD. Now, let's think about RLUSD as, Ripple's very own dollar-backed stablecoin running on the XRP ledger. Now, one RLUSD equals $1. It's a simple concept, right? Well, now you might be wondering, okay, cool, another stablecoin. So what? Well, here's the so what. Every time that you transact with RLUSD on the XRP network, a teeny tiny amount of XRP is used as a fee. And that XRP is burned away. It's gone. Poof, gone. Forever. It's kind of like a little toll that you pay in XRP that actually destroys a little bit of the XRP supply each time. Now I get it, you're thinking, why does that matter? Well, over time, if RLUSD or any activity on XRP's ledger gets big, well, those small burns can add up. It's a slow burn, pun intended, of course, but it kind of increases scarcity of XRP gradually over time. Basic supply and demand, right? If you slowly decrease the supply, well, hopefully demand stays or at the same, or even rises, it can be good for the price long term. Now, I find that pretty clever. It's kind of like how Ethereum started burning fees after EIP-1559, if you're familiar with that, but in XRP's universe. And it's subtle, right? But most users transacting probably don't even think about the fact that they are contributing to an XRP bonfire, one microtransaction at a time. But they are. It's a little neat flywheel effect that could actually make XRP more valuable as the network usage grows. All right, let's get back to the big picture then, right? Price. At the time of this story, XRP is around $3 per coin, and that value actually kind of makes it the third largest cryptocurrency by market cap, only behind the usual suspects of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, we're talking roughly $180 billion of market cap, which is enormous. That's kind of like bigger than a lot of the Fortune 500 companies. So if you're wondering, is it too late? Did I miss the boat on XRP since it's already number 3? You're not alone. Right? I wondered that too many times because let's face it, the days of buying XRP at 20 cents and seeing it at $3, well, those have already happened, right? The kind of crazy 1000% moonshot in a week kind of moves are probably off the table at this size. It's just math, right? When you're already huge, doubling or tripling in value takes a lot more new money coming in than if you were maybe a small little fish. But that's exactly why the USA Today analysis claims XRP offers something different right now. Not meme coin style parabolic gains, but something arguably more valuable: stability and long-term potential growth. So think of XRP now as kind of a blue chip crypto. It's like the difference between investing in, say, Apple stock versus some penny stock hoping to find the next Apple, right? Apple's not going to 10x in a year, but you trust it more than maybe with your money than something else, right? Similarly, right, XRP also has got a lot of those fundamentals: real adoption, a clear use case, regulatory clarity, finally, institutional partnerships, the stuff that makes cryptos, at least most or many cryptos, can only actually dream of. Also, accessibility, right? The article noted something that I thought was rather interesting. XRP's relatively low price per coin makes it feel more accessible to everyday investors with modest budgets. There's the psychological thing where holding 166 XRP, that's if you invest $500 at $3 each, feels more tangible or satisfying to some people than holding 0.013 of a Bitcoin or whatever, right? I mean, either way, $500 is $500, but I get it. Owning wholes, units of something actually feels quite good. And when those units have strong fundamentals behind them, it's a nice little combo. So you can feel like you've got a decent bag, and that bag isn't just a lottery ticket, right? It might actually be worth something down the line based on logic, not just pure hope. Now, let's address the giant speculative elephant that is in the room. Many people think that XRP could go to $1,000 someday, and yes, you heard that right. Now, there are some people out there, including some very bold analysts and a lot of enthusiastic YouTubers and Twitter personalities, throwing around a future price tag of around $1,000 per XRP. Now, when I first saw that, I initially kind of almost spat out my coffee. I mean, $1,000 per coin is pretty insane. So do you know what XRP's market cap would be at $1,000 a pop, right? Roughly $60 trillion. That was with a T, give or take, depending on how many XRP are actually in circulating supply at that point. Right, $60 trillion is like the market cap of all of the US stock combined, or somewhere in that kind of ballpark figure. It's a pretty crazy number, right? But for the sake of entertainment, let's play it out, right? If XRP hits $1,000, my humble $500 investment, could actually today, or at least my investment today, would potentially turn into $166,000. That's $166,000. Now, that's from a $500, investment. That's the kind of thing that finance fairy tales are made of. It never happens in the stock market without some kind of time machine or insider info, right? So the article did mention that $1,000 speculation, right? But very much framed it as a hypothetical, some community commentators say, kind of thing. And they also noted that even those who believe in this scenario think it could take a decade or possibly longer to kind of materialize, 10 years or so, right? In crypto time, that's a kind of like eons, if you will. Now, one of the things that I do want to just pause here for a second and mention is that market cap is kind of a bit misleading when it comes to crypto, right? Unlike stock markets where you have tangible things that can drive value, such as earning reports and things like that, the crypto market cap is a rather basic metric. It basically takes your price and multiplies it by your circulating supply, right? And the price is the last price that someone bought or sold a token for, in this case XRP. So it doesn't actually take a lot of fresh capital to move the needle, right? And this is because we have things called order books. Order books, when they are thin, as in there's not much buying or selling in those order books, the price can have an extreme amount of volatility, meaning that it can go up or go down rather rapidly based on the buying or selling volumes and the thin order books, the imbalance between the supply and the demand, right? So the supply and the demand control the price controls the market cap. So a $60 trillion market cap can actually be achieved with as little, and this is crazy, with as little as $100 billion of capital inflows. So if you had $100 billion drop into XRP buy orders right now, you could see a $60 trillion market cap. It would be bonkers. It wouldn't last very long. There would be an immense amount of selling pressure on that journey, but that's how quickly it could spiral out of control. So it doesn't take $60 trillion of fresh capital. It could only take $100 billion of fresh capital. And that is a very different game altogether. Now, I'm going to be real with you guys. I'm not banking on $1,000 XRP. Now, could it happen? Maybe, right? Who knows? Crazier things have happened in crypto, right? I guess, but what I'm not doing is planning my retirement all around this. For me, or at least to me, that's the dream, not the base case, right? Or best case. So a best case scenario, but not a base case. Like today, however, just hearing that big number certainly obviously got me daydreaming a little bit, right? I caught myself fantasizing. What if by 2035, I'm looking at my XRP stash that's now worth 6 figures, right? I'd probably feign I then treat myself to something rather nice, like a Lamborghini or something more realistic maybe, but maybe actually finally just pay off the mortgage or take the family on a bit of a world trip, right? It's fun to imagine these things, I'm not going to lie. But then I snap back to reality and remember that even if it never hits anything close to that, I'm okay with it because I didn't invest more than I could afford to lose. And on that note, Let me just slip in my responsible YouTuber hat here for a second and remind everyone of something rather important. And this one might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice, right? Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video today is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Phew, and I'm glad that I got that out of the way. Now, I know you've probably heard that 1,000 times by now, but hey, had to say it. I mean, though, you got to be careful out there. Now, with that reality check in place, let me tell you what I personally ended up doing after going through all of this info. I read the article, I dug into all of the other sources, and I thought about the risk and the potential. And I'll be honest, I caught a little bit of the XRP fever, so I joined the club. Yeah, I went ahead and I bought myself roughly 166 XRP with about $500 give or take a few bucks on fees. Now, I'm not telling you to go ahead and do the same. No way, right? That is totally your call and only you can make those decisions. I'm just being transparent about my own move here. I felt like, you know what? The arguments made sense, and XRP has weathered a lot of storms and come out even stronger. It has actually kind of utility, not just kind of hype. And even now, the US government and major banks are not shying away from it either. Now, if I'm going to put $500 somewhere in crypto and then not stare at it for a few years, XRP feels like a solid candidate. So I added 500 more XRP. 166 XRP to my existing bag. Now, to make that purchase, I used Kraken Pro, which is the exchange that I normally use for stuff like this. Here's full disclosure though, I do have an affiliate link for Kraken Pro and it is in the description down below. So if you happen to use it, it kicks a little support back to the channel here at no extra cost to yourself. Just putting it out there for transparency, feel free to use it or not. I like Kraken Pro because the fees are low and I trust it, but use whatever platform that you are comfortable with, of course. Now, the key point is that I actually put my money where my mouth is. And there's now this little bit in my portfolio that's proudly XRP, and I plan to hodl it to see what happens next. Maybe it goes up, maybe it goes down. I'm in it for the long haul and with this particular set of XRP. Now, let me reflect for just a second, because this whole journey has been kind of a little bit funny to me, right? I'll admit, I was never an XRP army kind of guy in the past. In fact, I kind of just ignored XRP's community for a long time, especially when the lawsuit was dragging on and it just seemed like baggage that I didn't really want to have to deal with. But seeing a mainstream outlet like USA Today give XRP a nod made me kind of sit up and think, maybe there's more to this story now. It's kind of like when the kind of stodgy old finance uncle who's always kind of hated crypto suddenly says, you know what? That XRP thing isn't too bad, right? You've got to pay attention to that, right? It indicates a turning point or a shift in perception. Now, although I've been invested in XRP for years and years and years, like 2019, I even doubled down during the initial lawsuit drop, right? Buying in at 17 cents back then. I also happened to buy more just by pure dumb luck, by the way, guys, at 30 cents in 2022 by having a random buy order on Binance at the time, right? I've been in XRP for a long time, but I've never really kind of been a believer in these kind of moonshots. Not until more recently, where things really have been stacking up neatly for Ripple. Now, the more that I dug in, the more that I realized that XRP's narrative has really transformed over the years. It went from being this underdog fighting the SEC to something of a comeback kid with a clearer path ahead. The regulatory clarity from the court rulings and the new laws, the validation from big institutions like BNY Mellon, the technical advantages in payment, and even the tokenomics tweaks like the XRP burning stablecoin, it all kind of paints a picture of a crypto that is maturing. Now, I usually get suspicious when any media suddenly hypes up a crypto because, let's be real, sometimes it means the opposite is about to happen. But in this particular case, the hype if we can call it that, is actually backed by some substance, right? It's not just XRP will make you rich overnight nonsense. It's more like XRP won't embarrass you in front of your financial advisor. And you know what? I can live with that. In fact, that's exactly the kind of thing that I want to have in my portfolio. Assets that might not send me to the moon next week, but have a good shot at steadily growing while I sleep well at night. So here I am, $500 poorer in cash, but richer in XRP bags and curiously optimistic about it. Now, is XRP truly the best $500 investment in crypto today? Well, you know what? It might just be, for me at least. The way that I see it is that if you're going to be venturing into crypto with a small amount, doing it with a project that has real world utility, legal clarity, and big players backing it isn't a bad way to go. It sure beats tossing $500 at some random meme coin that you know is going to rug pull you in the next 2 days, and crossing your fingers and hoping that you get out first. But trust me, right? I've been down that road way too many times, looking at you, Shiba Inu, thanks for nothing. And with XRP, I feel like I'm investing in a strategy and an infrastructure, not just some kind of hype cycle nonsense. Now, of course, this is all my personal take. Maybe you completely disagree, and that, guess what, is totally cool. In fact, I'd love to hear what you think. So if you're yelling at the screen right now saying, no, the best $500 investment is something else, come and tell me about it, right? We have a free educational Discord server. The link is in the description with a bunch of crypto enthusiasts and learners, and we kind of hash this stuff out in real time, all the time. So hop in, let us know what your perspective is. Moving, maybe you've got this kind of insight that I've missed, or maybe you've got someone on XRP's, or maybe you're actually on XRP's team right now. Now, either way, it's going to be a conversation, and I'm here for it. Now, at the end of this video, I'm going to be walking away with, at least from this little experiment, with a new outlook on XRP. It went from a coin that I almost wrote off, in terms of, doing fantastic gains, to the coin that I'm actually kind of rather excited about, right? Hence all of the XRP videos on this channel over the last 4 to 6 months. Will it make me a fortune? Who knows? What I do know is that I've done my homework. I've weighed the pros and the cons, and I've made a choice that feels right for me. And that's all that any of us can really do in this crazy crypto space, isn't it? Right? We educate ourselves, we make the best calls that we can, and we strap in for whatever comes next. So if you've enjoyed coming along on this crypto adventure with me, do me a solid. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for more, and go ahead and click on the next video that's queuing up on the screen somewhere over there. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.